Assalamu alaikum students. This is our third video of secondary computer science. Chapter number 1, Introduction to C language. Our today's topic is assembly language. Since the assembly language is also the type of low-level language, so it has the same characteristics. Let's see. The first point is that the assembly language was developed to replace the machine codes and binary. If you remember from the previous lecture, we have seen that in the machine language, we were using the ones and zeros, and it was very difficult to memorize and program with the ones and zeros. So therefore, assembly language was developed to replace those machine codes. So it uses the set of symbols, and those set of symbols are called the mnemonic codes. Now those mnemonic codes consist of 3 or 4 letters like add, sub. Add means addition and sub means subtraction, and it is showing that which operation is being performed, and locations. Now by locations we mean the memory locations of where the operands or data is present. So let's see the example of the assembly language code. As you can identify in this code, the words load, mul means multiply, and div means division are the mnemonic codes. And they are telling that which operation is to be performed. Now here you can see the R1 and R2. Now these are the memory locations which are present inside the processor. And here you can see the other memory locations we are telling that to load the data from the B into the R1 and from the H into the R2, and then multiply the values present in R1 and R2. And then we are dividing the number 2 to whatever the value which is present in R1. So you can see that here we are also using the memory locations as well along with the mnemonic codes. So now instead of using the ones and zeros, we will use these mnemonic codes and the memory locations. Now the assembly language is a low-level language, and the low-level language is the language which is closer to machine. By this we means that it is very easy for the machine to understand a low-level language as compared to the human or the programmer. So the assembly language allows the programmer to interact with and control the hardware. It is also the characteristic of this low-level language. This means that we can write the programs in the assembly language to control the hardware. For this purpose, assembly language is used. Next is that the use of assembly language requires the comprehensive knowledge of the computer. We need to know about the processor, about the registers, about the memory of the computer, because we are using them directly in our code. So therefore, if you are writing down the code in assembly language, you need to have the detailed information about the computer, about the hardware for which you are writing the code. Assembly language must be converted to the machine language before execution. Computer understands only machine language. Although we are writing the code in assembly language for our own ease and facility, but still computer will not be able to understand it. So therefore it must be converted into the machine language before execution. And this is an example, the code written in the assembly language by the programmer will be converted into the machine language for the processor to understand and then to execute, to act upon those instructions. Next point is that they provide the programmers access to all the special features of the computer, because when you are writing the code in high level language, then you cannot access all the features of the computer. But this is a characteristic of assembly language, that when you are writing the code in assembly language, you can access all the special features of the computer. That certain types of operation which are not possible in high level language are easily programmed in assembly language. And most of times these operations are related with the hardware. A program which is written in the assembly language will require the less storage, and the less running time means that it will be faster. Now another important point is that assembly language has one-to-one correspondence to machine language. This means that each assembly language instruction will result in one machine language instruction. If you will translate the assembly language code into the machine language, it will result in one instruction. So there is one-to-one mapping. Or you can say that if you want to write the code, whether you write it in the assembly language or in the machine language, the number of instructions will be same, because there is one-to-one correspondence or one-to-one mapping between both. And the one instruction of assembly language is equivalent to the one instruction of machine language. Now you can see the example of the assembly language code and the machine language code. You see that the assembly language code is written using the mnemonic codes and the memory locations. And this is a machine language code written using the ones and zeros. Now we will see some advantages of the assembly language. So first is that the assembly language provides the human understandable substitutions for long strings of binary. By long strings of binary, we means that the long codes of ones and zeros. So the assembly language has replaced them with the human understandable substitutions, which are the mnemonic codes. So these mnemonic codes are easy to write, understand, and modify as compared to the machine language. And we can control the hardware through assembly language. Assembly language is very fast in execution. Assembly language has simplified the debugging. Now, what do we mean by debugging? Debugging is the process of identifying and removing errors. When you write down the code, there are chances that there will be some errors in your code. So, the process of identifying and removing the errors in machine language was very difficult and complex and very tiresome. But as compared to the machine language, the process of debugging is simplified in the assembly language. Next point is that it provides the better documentation. What do we mean by documentation? There's a document which is called a program document. And this program document contains all the information about the program, that why this program is written and how this program works, etc. So when we are writing the code in the assembly language, then it also improves the documentation as compared to when we were writing the code in the machine language. Now there are some disadvantages of the assembly language. First is that it is machine dependent. We have seen that we have to write the code again if there are the different type of machines and devices which have the different internal architecture. Second is that the code is lengthy and complex. Now we have seen that as compared to the machine language, it is better, but still as compared to the high level language, code is lengthy and difficult. And the last disadvantage you can say is that it requires the comprehensive knowledge of computer. Means you need to have the detailed information about the hardware or the computer for which you are writing the code. So this was our today's video about the assembly language. I hope that it's clear to you. Thank you for your attention.